Ladies and gentlemen, faithful televiewers of Viewpoint and DBS as a whole, good evening and thank you very much for joining us. It is a pleasure having you. Of course, it is another day, another hope, and another topic for us to discuss in today's edition. We are going to be touching the economy of Cameroon and Africa as a whole, and we are having a social entrepreneur with us and a civil society activist. Last week we had him, and this week again we are opportune to have him with us. I'm talking of Dr. Nick Nkwanyam, and he'll be accompanied by Mange Fenashus. Dr. Nick, it is a pleasure having you again.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be back here in your studio, your nice studio.
Thank you very much. Feel at home. Feel comfortable.
Oh, yeah, I'm home. Yeah.
Mange Fenashus, you're welcome.
Vanessa, thank you so much, and good evening to our viewers at home. Regional councillors have been voted, and I wish to challenge them, task them to know that they are for the development of their respective regions, those who voted them, and not within party lines.
And talking about development, let us find out how Africa can develop to a greater extent on its own. Let us take the first part of the show. Once more, you are welcome back. In question 1, can the violence being witnessed in Africa having economic link? Dr. Nick?
The answer is a big yes, and the yes is even bold and enlarged and so on. Make it as big as you wish.
All right, I've made it. Mange Fenashus?
Yes, I share the same opinion, Vanessa. It is.
Yes, it is. And in the second question, can Africa succeed in avoiding Western influence in the management of their economy? Doctor?
It's a yes and no question. Answer.
Yes and no. Fenashus?
No, Vanessa.
No.
Africa cannot.
Africa cannot. Let us have the debate. Can the violence being witnessed in Africa having economic link? Doctor, you think that yes, it's going to have. When we talk of violence, be it socio-political or social, almost across Africa, we know of the Sahel, we know of Cameroon, we know of Ethiopia. A lot of African countries now like this are witnessing violence in one way or the other, and we are trying to find the economic impact of this violence in the economy of the continent at large.
That's right. To understand this topic very well, I have this very beautiful experiment that I always share with people so that they understand what is going on. I say, you and I, we go down to the street and get 10 street children. And we go into a nice restaurant, we give each of them a plate of rice with a piece of meat or two. We give them a good drink to drink. So there's enough for each of the 10. That's group A. What we will notice is that they will eat, they will be very satisfied, they will play, they will hold hands, and they're very contented, at least for that day.
For that day.
And for that moment, for the next couple of hours, they'll be okay. Let's do the same experiment with group B. In group B, we take 10 children, and instead of providing a plate each, let's buy just 4 plates of rice, 4 pieces of meat, and 4 drinks. And have them, share
the 4 plates.
Yeah, share the 4 plates. You can get them to just eat and see how they behave, or you choose one amongst them and make him the leader to try to share or whatever. But let them be. What you will notice that in group B, there's going to be a fight. There's going to be a fight whether you like it or not, and that fight is not because they hate each other. The fight is just that they are responding to human needs, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you need that food, you need drink, you need air, that survival thing. And then Maslow's hierarchy of needs again is a triangle like that. At the base of it, you have physiological needs, which are food, drink, or call it water, food, water, air, sleep. And then If you move up to the second level, it's about safety and security. You move to the third level, it's about love. Human beings, we give love and we receive love, so there must be love, and and you must love yourself too. Then in the fourth place we have ego, that's self-pride, and then in the fifth place you have self-actualization. You become who you wanted to be. Then there's a more superior class which is not within the triangle, it's outside of the triangle. It's called the transcendental phase, because as long as you're in the triangle you are looking at yourself, but out of the triangle you are satisfied and you are looking at others. Okay, but you can be out of the triangle, but when you are angry and hungry, you come back into the base of the triangle where you must survive. So it's this thing, and so it's a human nature. It's human nature. So each time you don't have enough to go around, there'll be violence. That's the bottom line. So when there is violence, find out if there's enough to go around, enough of everything to go around. If there's not enough of everything to go around, there's violence. So if you want to cure the violence, make sure you provide enough for everybody. That is the bottom line. You can make all the political speeches you want, but if you have not provided what is missing, there will be violence.
And that has affected the economy of Africa.
Yes, because now we are talking then about economics is the availability of things, not so. I mean,
yes.
Somehow. Now, so this is how it works. Let me first, I think last time we mentioned this. You see, if you look at violence, look at what is happening in Ethiopia, in Sudan, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, everywhere. It doesn't matter what country, even in Siberia, whatever. It is about principles. And when you respect the principles, this is what you get. When you break the principles, this is what you get. So politics, things are structured this way. You have politics over here and you have economics over here. And politics is about putting in place good policies and making sure that those good policies are respected to the letter. And once you do that, the machine of economics turns. Economics is about generating goods and services and then earning money for it, okay? And then meeting the needs of people. That's what economics is all about. And then, so politics and economics, they drive development, all sorts of development, human development, economic development. Human development would be capacity building, right? All those things. Then you have infrastructural development, provision of water, all those things, is development. Now, but that development is what you are seeing up here. Again, like we explained, sometimes under the table there is something that is controlling the development, the politics and the economics is the education, the kind of education you've had. So when you see all these problems breaking up in Africa, the number one thing that you want to put your finger on, if you want to talk about root causes, is that the education in Africa is poor. And the white man gave us the kind of education which would allow us only to be employees. Just read and understand and be employees, but he didn't give us the opportunity to have that kind of an education that develops our capacities to be able to solve our problems. That's why today we would go to the forest, cut trees, make a gift of them to the French and to the Chinese. They'll give us a few pennies, then we take the very pennies, go to China and buy rice and come and eat and think that we have worked. It's because our minds are not developed. You understand what I'm saying? So that is the problem. So the violence and the economics, they are tied. Can you see how it's going?
Okay,
so
sure,
we must get that thing. And if we don't really understand this, we cannot break it. And that's why we'll continue to say that even if you were to take a country like Cameroon, if you replaced the CPDM with the SDF or with the MRC or with Cabral Libri or any other one, what I'm saying, even if you had the best elections and change parties, change the leadership every 5 years, if you don't correct what I have told you, nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen. I remember this statement that you equally made last month, I think so. Thank you very much, Dr. Nick. Mangavenashus, you equally think that this violence has affected the economy of Africa?
Of course, Vanessa, there's an English adage that says a hungry man is an angry man. we are living in a continent like Africa that is still suffering from the grip of colonial rule right up to the 21st century. We are still suffering from the effect, the impact of colonial rule right up to this century, because we have been made to understand that we have been given fish. We have never been, we were not taught how to catch fish, and it was a calculated attempt, because if they taught us how to catch fish, we would not depend on them. If they taught us how to catch fish, we will not we will not praise them, we will not worship them literally, because in as much as, like they say, he who pays the piper dictates the tone, because they give us the fish, they dictate the way things should move with us, because we depend on them for that fish. If they had given us how to catch fish, their presence would mean nothing to us, and we would not worship them, we would not clap for them anytime. When you look at most of these African countries that are going through violence, look at the leadership in this country. Look at the rate of unemployment in this country. Look at the rate of, look at the corruption, embezzlement in this country. Look at the gross domestic product in this country. Of course, when there's unemployment, the GDP automatically has to fall. You will not tell me that a young man who is idle, they say an idle mind is a devil's workshop. When the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest region began, with the major national dialogue, I remember those whom they presented as separatist fighters, they said they were deceived into this, ideology of fighting the state. They said they were deceived that they would give them jobs. And they ended up not having their jobs. That is why they said they have dropped their arms and they are coming out of the bushes. I think that if you take somebody who is occupied, somebody who is employed, somebody who has something doing, the idea of taking up arms will be one of the least options for him. When you take somebody, like they say, Vanessa, I remember when we were in Form 4, Form 5, somebody, they asked us a simple question: why are we going to school? We are going to school. And everybody, gave all sorts of answers. I want to become a lawyer, I want to become a magistrate, I want to become a this or that. The teacher simply said, we are going to school because we want to eat. Which means the violence we have in Africa, it is our human need, like Dr. was saying, the basic human need, survival instinct, are not being satisfied. And you cannot sit and see yourself dying of hunger. You cannot see your child dying of starvation, whereas there is, like somebody said, I take for example Cameroon. Once you are rich, exceedingly rich, and once you are poor, exceedingly poor. You see, the society has been stratified in such a way that people are at extremes. That is why there are some people who cannot even eat in Cameroon. There are people who are constructing mansions, who are constructing story buildings practically every time. And you tend to ask yourself, are we living in the same country? And when you see all these things happening, you see that these two extremes, there are others whose economic potentiality is exceedingly high, others whose economic potentiality is far below standard, below even the standard, the normal existing range.
And so all that applies to all African countries?
In most African countries where there are violence, where there are all these crises that we have, this is what is happening. The wealth of the nation is managed by a privileged few, whereas the majority of the population are dying of starvation. I think the basic is starvation, what to eat. That is why that is the source of all this violence. Because somebody who is able to meet his basic needs. Vanessa, I don't think that we fight because we want to have pile of cars. We want to talk of mini houses. No, people are fighting because you don't even know what you eat tomorrow. You imagine, you think your child falls ill today. You are not even able to provide shelter. You are not able to provide food. You are not able to provide the health of your child, and you will not cross your hands and sit. Whereas while others are at the other end, like somebody said, sleeping in wealth, swimming in wealth. I remember somebody made a caricature of African countries where you see a privileged few swimming in water and you see a whole village in front of a tap that is practically dropping. That is the way our economy is. Others are swimming in wealth and others are barely surviving. With all this, that is the source of this violence that we have. Because everybody thinks that...
So how has it affected the economy?
It has affected the economy because, that's why we said a few people handle the economy of the country. In simple economics, they tell you that manpower, human labor, turns things going. If I am in position of recruiting, I am not recruiting those who are competent. I'm recruiting my brother, I'm recruiting my sister, I'm recruiting not out of merit. It means their output will not be maximum. They would produce mediocre results. As such, the economy keeps turning within a particular few. Whereas, if we had to diversify, if we had to go for the larger population, imagine a country. Remember, in our African context,
reason why Dr. Need talk of the education,
the mind frame. Correct. In our African context, they used to tell us that before the coming of the white man, the worth of an African was measured by the number of wives he had, the number of children he had. Because if my father had 4 or 5 wives, with each wife just having 5 children, those were already 20 children. Imagine these 20 children going to the farm, how they work, and their output, how much it would be.
That was a strong labor force.
That was a strong labor force that they had. So, in as much as very few people are controlling the economy, very few people are involved in the running of the economy, turning the economy around. GDP falls.
GDP falls. Thank you very much, Mangavenashu, sir. Who let it in order for us to have time for the second question. Can Africa succeed in avoiding Western influence in the management of the economy? Doctor, you think yes, that they can as well as they cannot?
Yes. Just before, let me just tidy up something that Venatius was saying over there about the economy. Just to say that when there is, we start from somewhere. There's a little for everybody, and then we are not growing what we have. Okay, the economy is not growing as fast as the population and the needs of the population. So you get to a place where there's a disequilibrium, where the population and the needs are growing faster than the economy. That's where things tip over. Once you have that, then corruption sets in. Violence of us, anger sets in. When we are talking of violence, is the overt violence where you are fighting and knifing each other, but the anger starts from inside. Okay, so it becomes overt, and before you know it, people are picking up arms left, right, forward, center, and calling people names. Now, so we need to be aware of that and say that the economic production machinery has got to be strong. You need to build it through your school systems. And the school systems, what do you mean? We need to, the school system is in Africa now, is not good. It's bad. The word is bad. And you need to restructure your education so that you have 70% of your children studying science, engineering, technology, and mathematics. Okay, along with it, courses in leadership, management, entrepreneurship, emotional intelligence, financial intelligence, what it means to work smart, respect for each other. These are the kind of things. But if you have 80 to 90% of your children studying literary subjects, with literary subjects you cannot really produce much. Probably a few smart ones can write a few novels and so on, and that's it. Okay, but you cannot change your pineapples into pineapple juice. So that's the problem, and we need to. The white man kept away the technology and engineering from us, and that's what we need to go back to and look for it. Otherwise, we'll never get out. You can talk the whole day, but if you don't bring back technology and engineering to your children, so that they begin to compete with Korean children and German children, we are wasting our time. That's where the cash is.
That's where the cash is.
Yes.
And in the second question, can Africa succeed in avoiding Western influence in managing the economy?
To really understand this topic, we have to understand 3 words. The 3 words are interdependence, dependence, and independence. The question I would ask is there any country in the world that is independent? There is there's no independent country. Even America is not independent. So You know, I was thinking about it, and in my dialect, I'm from the Wimbum tribe. In our dialect, they say, it means the fawn, the king or the chief, he had everything, but he lacked a needle. You know the needle that which you can fix your button. So he had everything, but he lacked the needle. So as long as the fawn doesn't have a needle, he's not independent. You understand? So American can be as great as she is, but she needs somebody. You know, so you can only be great relative to other people, and with that understanding, you can understand that no African country is actually independent. It is good. The independence that we get is the independence on paper. I'm sure we looked at this last time, where I said that there are two kinds of independences. There is the independence which is your birthday, the day you came around as a nation, but you have to grow like any other child or a human being, and then have the capacity to produce and solve your own problems. So the more you can solve your problems, the more independent you are. But the less you can do that, the more dependent you are. So the term dependent comes in now. So you see that the problem with African countries is the problem of dependence. So you have a whole country like Cameroon eating Chinese rice. We depend on China for rice. We depend on them. Go see our supermarkets. 95% of the things in the supermarkets are imported. So it is that dependence that makes it impossible for us to be independent. Are you getting one? The best place to be for any country will be interdependence, where you take something from me and then I take something from you. But all that Africa can give other people is raw materials that they never made. It's God that provided them. So if you are going to give something
like back in those days, where if I had a goat and you had a yam,
yes, there was that trade by barter or something like that.
Yes.
So they are using monetary values now and some of these things to change it. But the bottom line is that I give you something, you give me something. But Africa has nothing to give, but we have a lot of minerals and tree trunks to give and so on. When you keep giving minerals and tree trunks, it's a very primitive economy. You need to manufacture, you need to go up the ladder and be able to add value to those things that God gave you. Then that's when you become relatively independent. The more you have that economic independence, then you can really become interdependent. But as of now, we are talking of countries which are independent, trying to make deals with people who are dependent. You see, it's not balanced, and that's where the weakness comes in. And we must correct that.
And probably in a subsequent edition, we'll see how we can correct that. Mangevena shoes, you equally think that, that Africa cannot avoid being dependent from the Western countries.
Yes, Vanessa, at the beginning of this program, I said something that Africa is still suffering from the grip of the colonial era, that we're still suffering from the impact, the effect. If you look at it, can we be dependent, or can we avoid the influence of the management of our economy by Western countries? The colonial era made us to believe that what comes from outside, from the Western world, is what is good, what is best, what is superior to what we have. Like Doctor said, we give and then take from them. You would not understand that the Chinese will leave their country, come to Cameroon, cultivate rice, and we import rice from China. They cultivate the rice here in China, in Cameroon.
Yes.
And we import rice. And you know how we call it? Chinese rice. That is cultivated here in the central region. Whereas we have the natural rice that is cultivated at Ndop. The Ndop rice that is cultivated in the Ndop plain has a particular taste that is quite different from the imported rice that we import, calling it, the best rice. It has to do with our mentality too. Let us try to think beyond the fact that anything white is good. Let us try to think from the fact that, in a simple meeting, once a white man is there, what he says, no matter how stupid it is right. Vanessa, experience has proven that African students, once they leave Africa and go out there for studies, they are far beyond this white. But we still think that because it is a white man telling us, we still think that because it is a white man who had to. No, we are able to, we can do it. We can avoid the influence of African. It is not to say that we can be independent of Westerners. It is not to say that we can cut links altogether. No, but the fact is, we must be able to assert our place that I also have a contribution that I can give, just like he also has a contribution that he can give from out there. Africans should understand that it is not because we are Africans that it will be a Frenchman who will come to Cameroon and dictate what should happen in Cameroon. No, in as much as, remember, just by the end of last month, we were talking of something here where French president feels that he can intervene in the running of Cameroonian affairs. No, it is because Cameroon, administration will allow him to think so. He is a president. The president of Cameroon is a president in his own right, in his own capacity, like the president of France. So we should not think that French president will just sit and say, I gave orders to the president of Cameroon. As who? As who? Because if the independence that they gave us was an independent, it means you don't have to look at, once I grow, my father does not know what I do in my house. My father will not decide the food that we eat in my house. My father will not decide the number of children that I will have. No. Because I am already independent of my father. This is how this colonization issue, independence, was supposed to be. But then they gave us a kind of independence where we were still like, they say you are independent, but then up to today, we are still manipulated.
No, they were giving me the left and collecting, and are gradually collecting back with the right hand.
And they will give us what they give in the left, they collect it 3 times with the right hand. That is where we are. That is why today, you still hear of accord that were signed, that when it comes to exploiting minerals, perhaps in a country like Cameroon, only France can, and if France is not interested, that is when Cameroon. It's like you sit in your house and you tell the foreigner that if you don't eat, I will not eat in my house. Yes, no, Vanessa, you come to my house, I eat first before I can welcome you. If I don't eat, I cannot give you give you food. I will not have the strength to work to maintain my house. So I think that we should also believe that we can. Let us be confident of what we can give. I was remembering somebody told us that the cell phones that we use here in Cameroon, they are being manufactured by secondary school students in Western countries. Whereas our technical schools here, polytechnics here, they can't even manufacture a simple, what we call choronko. We can't even manufacture it. So I think that
let
us also think of growing, to their level. We can. Mentally, intellectually, we are able to, but then it is this inferiority complex that is killing us, that we think that once it comes from there, it is best. Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Mangavenashus. Dr. Nick, your closing remark.
Yes, it is the lack of technology from our systems. We don't know technology. That's the biggest problem. When the white man doesn't respect the black man, it's not that he hates your color. No, it's not really the color. He hates. I mean, he just underlooks you because you don't have technology. That's the bottom line. If you were to have technology and come up to speed and be the driver, he will respect you.
Of course,
that's the bottom line.
You to be
but
superior.
if you have wealth behind your door and you are still poor, why do you want to be respected?
Why do you want to be respected? Thank you very much, Dr. Nick.
Thank you.
And Mangavenashus, thank you also.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you also for watching. See you tomorrow. Do take care and stay safe. Make sure that you respect the coronavirus barrier measures in order to keep yourself, your family, and your community safe. Goodbye.